Alright, we're at it again. Another hydro pump repair. Happened on a different mower. This one, same thing. Seal goes bad on the underneath, and you start noticing a bunch of oil underneath the mower. You can go through these pumps and rebuild them. So that's what we're going to do today. I've already got most of the stuff off. So cover comes off. You got your filter here. One of your lines goes in the front here. This one here goes down in there. These two lines come here. You got your linkage, to drive the machine, that's there. And then you got to pull the pulley off the bottom and take the bolt out here. Take the bolt out there. And get this cooling fan off real quick. Put this aside. And then your old pump comes out. So we're going to come over here to the bench. And what we're going to do with this one today is, it's been a while. I know this machine is original, so we're going to change out. This is the bottom seal. This is the seal that went bad. This is where we're leaking oil all over the place. There's a bearing inside. We're going to replace that one. And then there's this plate here, because these get grooved up like crazy. So I got another one of those. Yeah, so that's it. So we're going to start taking this thing apart. This is just, this little metal bracket here is, it hooks on, or this is for your guard, for your cooling fan to hook to. Some might not have this. Anyways, this one does. What I went ahead and did was mark this whole pump with a groove, or with a line right down the center of it. Line here, all the way down. Because what you don't want to do is put this on 180 off, because the motor won't pump. Did it on the last one, caught it in time, figured out what was going on. But anyways, you got to make sure that this goes back on the same way that it came off. And then what you're going to do now, since those bolts are out, this will come off, and you'll see that it leaves behind the gears and the seal here. This seal I already popped off and got a new one. So we'll take these off here. Just want to pull everything off and flip it upside down and put it back in the direction you're going to put it back on. So if everything's upside down on the bench, you could just flip it over and put it back in. So we'll set this aside here. Now what we got to do is take out these 10mm bolts, and underneath here is the valve assembly, and it has got springs in it, springs and pistons. So once I get this apart, I'll show you what that looks like. Before I pull it apart, I just forgot to mention, see that ball bearing down in there? It's a little plastic ball, and on the underside of this part here is a spring. Just make sure you don't lose those. They only go, obviously it's not going to fit in these holes, so it only goes in that hole. So once you take this apart, pop that ball out and just keep it safe and clean. So I'm going to pull these out and we'll get back to it. Alright, once you pull these 4 bolts out, you can see this thing is spring loaded on here. What's underneath here is the valve and the pistons, and the pistons have springs underneath them, and we'll show you those real quick. Just be careful when you take this stuff apart. You got some parts. Underneath of here is one of the pieces that we'll be replacing. Okay, see this plate here? If any of you saw my last video, or the last time I did one of these pumps, the plate was way worse on the other one. This one is grooved up, but it's not too bad. But anyways, we bought another one for it. So that one is now trash. And then what you'll see in here is this is where the pistons are. See the springs inside there? This will just pop right up and out. Just flip this over on the bench. And then inside here, all those pistons and all the springs are still there. So what we'll just do is put these back in here. I'm going to clean everything up with diesel or kerosene, and then before reassembly. So we're just getting to the parts that we need to get out to get to the problem. And like I said, the problem is the bottom seal on this machine has let loose, and every time I open up the trailer, there's a bunch of oil on the floor. So anyways, okay, now inside here, there's this this shim here, or it's a bearing race actually, and on the other side of this is a bearing, and then down below it is another race. They're 3 pieces, so we'll pull these right out, and then this is a wobble plate here. Let's see how it moves like this. That'll slide up and out. So let me grab a pick, and we'll pull these things out and show you. All right, so just grab these guys here. Let me leave that spring in there for now. I'll show you that in a minute. Okay. So there's one of the races. We'll just throw that upside down on the bench here. Get these bearings out. Okay. Put that back right in the race. That. And then there's another guy down in here. Let's pull that right out, and we'll pop that back on top of these bearings. Okay. Now next, what you want to go pull out, well, you could have pulled it out before, but it doesn't really matter, is this little spring here, and under this spring is a washer. Okay, there's the washer. So I'll just put this on the bench like this, and put the washer on top like this. That way I know which way it goes back in. Now your wobble plate here. These are a little tricky to come out, only because the little film of oil between there and the race is like, keeps it like a suction. So anyways, might not be able to do it with one hand. So let me put this down, and I'll pull this out real quick for you. Okay, if you just take your 2 fingers, put 1 finger here, 1 finger here, and squeeze on it, it'll slide up. See this little groove here? That goes around that little square block that's on the end of the shaft. And it doesn't matter which way it is. It can spin around, but it's got to go on there perfectly straight, or else it'll bind. These bearings look like they're in actually really decent condition, and I don't see any wear whatsoever on them. Yeah, so that's good. So just flip this guy over and look at here. Yeah, those don't look bad either. You know, you can see wear, but you can't feel anything. Yeah, so this is in good shape. So we're just going to put this aside here. And like I said, this little guy down here, it just slides on the shaft. Just keep this aside. It can go on either direction in any way, because it's all the same. Okay, so we're going to leave this part intact. So the next thing we got to do is drive this shaft out. On the other side of this is the seal that's been leaking. You can see the underside of this is just completely soaked. This seal has been leaking. I just pulled out there's a C-clip holding everything in. No, sorry, this is under the seal. I had the seal out already to order a new one. No, actually from the wear, the pin or the clip is on the outer. You put the bearing in, then that seal, and then the clip, so you're good to go. So pull that C-clip out, put it in something to give you clearance. Let me see, I gotta find something else to put this on. Let me put you on hold. Okay, just put another roll of tape there. Anyways, what you're going to want to do is take a rubber mallet and just tap on the top of this shaft here. You could do it one of 2 ways. You could rubber mallet, tap on that, because mine wasn't very hard to come out at all. Or if you want to, you can put, if I can find it, oh, it's over on the machine, the nut that held down the cooling fan. If you put that nut on, and maybe just put something on top of that nut and give the top of the nut a few cranks with a hammer, it'll pop right out. And then you pull the pump off, set that aside, and then what you're going to see here is your dust shield that we need to replace, and a bearing. This one, it seems to be okay, but you know, for $4.25 or whatever, I just bought a new bearing. Not a big deal. So we're going to take these apart. If you look, holding this bearing in, actually under the dust shield is another just a seal or a spacer, some sort, like a washer type of deal. Just make sure these are out of the way. That can go out of the way there. And if you look here, let me see here if I can zoom into it. See this little ring here? Little spring-loaded ring. I'm going to need to get some picks in there, try to wedge those out of the groove. Once I wedge it out of the groove, I'll be able to drive this bearing off. Don't try to remove the bearing because that is there and you're just going to wreck everything. So let me bleed a little bit and get this thing out, and I'll show you what it looks like. Sorry for the noise, the heat just kicked on. But anyways, I got this little clip out. Best way to do it is just take a rag, put it on the back side here and push down with your fingernail, and then go in here with a sharp pick and just pry up on one end. Because if you try to pry up without holding it in place, it'll just try to spin on you. So just pry up on one end, and then once you get it out of the groove, you can just kind of work it around and it'll pop right out. Simply slide this off and I'll show you. Same thing with removing this bearing. You got to use what you can get. I just stacked up a bunch of sockets, and I was able to just give this a light tap here, and it just popped right out. So let me put this down real quick and knock this out, and we'll put the other one on. All right, there's the shaft out and the old bearing. The bearing guy said that this one is actually in pretty decent shape, but like I said, they were cheap, so I just bought a new one. So I'm going to pound this one back on and we'll start reinstalling. Alright, very simple. Bearing just slid right back on, and then put that retaining clip back in. So now we're going to start reversing the process and put this thing back together. So hang on. Alright, so I got that on. Bearing slid on, and then that spacer, and then the dust shield, and then put in that clip. And that'll hold everything together, and then we can start putting this back together. First thing we're going to do is put that little guy in there, and then I'm going to try to feed this back down on top, and we'll get back to you. I clean these all off real nice, and I also put a little bit of gear lube, or it's 1550 Mobile One, put in there, just to make sure that everything has got some lube on it when I put it back together. And as I go, I'll keep putting a little bit more in, and making sure everything's nice. So anyways, that's on. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to put this valve block in with the valves, or in the pistons, and then I'll put a little bit more oil in it, and we'll continue on from there. So hang on. Alright, and that's it. I just made sure this was really clean, and each piston I pulled out and cleaned them real good and cleaned everything off, and this is put some oil on it. Everything's real nice in there, so we're going to flip this over and stick it in there, and we'll get back to it. Yep, before I put that in, you got to put this washer on first. Goes down there, and then the spring. Okay, and now this can go in. But I need two hands, so stand by. Alright, once that block's on, you can put this plate in here. It fits in there, it fits around these two pins that are in the outer case. And see the word up? That goes up, just like whatever. You can see where this one has the up, and I know that's the wear that was on that valve down here, so that's the way that goes in. Now we're going to put on the top of the pump and these two things here, and then we should be all set. I also put a little bit more oil in here so everything is nice and clean and lubed up, and we'll just continue putting this back together, so hang on. Alright, so this part is on, and I did exactly what I said I didn't want to do and lost that ball bearing. Got the spring, but the ball bearing is gone, or that little check ball, whatever it is. Anyways, only got a minute of tape left, or video left. This is back together, and I'm going to go find the one that I lost and put it back in, or get a new one, so stand by. Alright, it took me a while, but I found that. This is actually a couple days later. I found it got too late, and then the next morning I woke up with a wicked cold, so apologize if I sound worse than I usually do, but anyways, that's the way she goes. Okay, so we're going to put this thing back together. Now what I've already done is, before you put these in, put these gears are just sitting on here, put them in the housing the way they're supposed to go, and you can see that the hole is it's not centered, it's lighter here. So anyways, what you want to do is put that in there, line yourself up on the shaft, put it down where it's supposed to go. Remember, you got to groove everything so it goes on the right way. You'll be able to move this around a little bit to find the holes. Once you do, once the holes are lined up, you pop this right off again, and the gears will stay on the housing like that. So that way, when you put your spring or the ball and then the spring in here, you can just drop everything over the top, and everything will go in nicely, and nothing will bind. So you got to put the ball in, and then we got to put the spring in here. Just gonna sit that up on top of that check ball like that. Make sure our notch is facing that way. And we're just gonna set it down here. Try this. Let me see here. See how we look. Drop right over that spring and drop it right down on like that. There's a hole on this side that the spring went into. It didn't bind up or anything like that, so we're good to go. Next part is this is the what's this thing called? This is where your the cooling fan shroud clips to. So this is just the clip for the cooling fan shroud, and we are going to then put these in here like so. I'll get these tightened up, and then we are ready to reinstall this in the machine. So let me get these tightened up. I already tightened these down. These ones will go on here next, and then we'll go put this on the machine. Oh yeah, and this dust shield is new here, because sometime, like on the last pump that I rebuilt, if you watch my videos, this seal went bad and actually let water in here, and then that spring and washer that was inside got rusty, and a little bit of those rust flakes got on everything and kind of ruined the inside of that pump, so I had a lot more to replace. This one was leaking from underneath, so all we had was just a mess in the trailer, so I didn't have to replace everything on top like this one, or like the old one. So that one's new, and then everything is all in place. This is mostly full with oil. I'm just going to tighten these down, and we'll go put it back in the machine, so hang on. Alright, so I put the pump back in. Before you put the bolts on to hold it to the deck, put your hoses on. Makes it easier. This one's real tight, so it makes it easier just to flop this thing around, put your hoses back on, get these hand tight, and drop it through the hole and bolt it back on. I'm going to tighten those hoses up, tighten those two bolts up, and then put the fan on, put the shroud on, fill it with oil, and we're ready to go. I don't have any oil with me, so that might not be on this video, but eventually we're going to have this thing started. Yeah, so I'm going to put this back together, and we'll see what happens. Well, here we are another couple days later, because of course no auto parts store carries that filter. Somebody cross-referenced it, but they didn't have it in stock, so I had to go wait till Monday for the lawnmower place to open up. So I got a new filter, and I got some oil put in this thing. I got the pump all hooked back up, all the hoses are on, the linkage is back together, so we're just going to fire up and make sure it works. Alright, so that's it. Yeah, the only thing left to do is I pulled the deck off this thing and bought new spindles for it and some pulleys, so we'll do that on the next video. So until then, rate, comment, subscribe. Thanks.